Correspondent Rick Leventhal has been reporting tonight that they have found a number of things that may just be helpful. Apparently, there has been a passport found. Rick Leventhal reporting that it may, repeat, may be a passport of one of the hijackers on one of those planes that crashed in the World Trade Center. If so, that would be a terrific find. Again, they already know who the hijackers were. Still, any piece of evidence would be great. There have been reports also that that there was discovery of some part of the cockpit. No more details coming out about that yet, but as soon as we get them, we'll bring them to you. Now, just a short time ago, New York City's Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik sat down with Fox News Channel's Judith Regan for an exclusive interview on how his department is dealing with the aftermath of Tuesday's attacks. As you know, he is somebody who's working very hard. He's not sleeping very much, and he's probably lost an awful lot of colleagues. Take a listen to what he said.
I think we have to deal with it aggressively. As you know, the president was here yesterday, and he met with the men and women that are at the site and promised them that the people who did this will pay. That's one of the ways you deal with this. We have to move forward. We have to make sure that people in the city know that we're going to get stronger as a result. And there's a number of ways to get through this. Right now, our primary concentration are the men and women on the site and the people that are missing. Trying to find them. That's one of the ways we get through it right now.
How are the rescue workers doing? How's their morale?
I think their morale is it's pretty good. We're optimistic. We're doing everything we can to look and see if there's anyone alive, see if we can get them out alive. And their morale is extremely high after yesterday. The president's visit has done tremendous things for the morale. It sent them a message that they're being supported by Washington. The governor has been here every single day. The mayor, his leadership is enormous. So their morale is, we're doing okay.
And what about Americans? What can they do to help? You know, there's been this enormous volunteer effort, and some say too many volunteers.
Well, the generosity is fabulous. It's really unbelievable to see the people come forward with food, their time. We have cops at the site now from California, from Michigan. We have firemen that have come from all over the nation. And we have civilians that just keep wandering in to volunteer their own time. But there is a point where we have to basically slow everybody down and say, okay, you know, at this point today, in fact, the mayor and I announced we don't need any more volunteers right now. What we need to do is coordinate the efforts we have and to make sure that everybody is doing what they have to do. But too many volunteers sometimes, you know, it creates, you know, a sort of a backlog and a jam. And so we put a hold on the volunteers, and we're using the people we have.
Now, what about the process of identifying bodies? Is there anything you can tell us about what's going on in that area?
Well, you know, some of the bodies have been identified as a result of personal belongings. There's going to be a process by which bodies may be identified through DNA findings, and that'll be done in conjunction with the police department's crime scene unit and the medical examiner.
How do we know how many people were in the building? Is there any way to ever be
the numbers, the missing numbers are just over 5,000 at this point. We're getting those numbers from missing persons reports that were submitted to the Missing Persons Bureau by the police department. I think about 1,200 of those reports came from outside of New York City. We also have the bereavement hotline, and right now we're trying to coordinate to make sure that there's no duplicate names, and it's a really big process. I think we're lucky that the site that the tragedy happened at that early in the morning. It was 8:50 when the first plane hit. A lot of people weren't in the building yet, in the first building. A lot of people were able to get out. In the second building, people were evacuating, and I think we're lucky that it was so early in the morning.
Now, talk to me about what it's actually like to be at Ground Zero, because so many people have said it's not like what you see on television. The enormity of it cannot really be seen on the television screen. What's it like when you approach the scene?
Someone asked me the day before yesterday, what is it like at Ground Zero in the hole or near the hole, sort of like a volcano. And, you know, especially at night when you go down there and it's with all the lights and the smoke, I said it looks like hell. That's what I would imagine hell looks like, sheer devastation. But the good thing, and if you could see any good in this, the good thing about the Ground Zero is the thousands of people that are working. You know, they're digging. They have, you know, when you're a child and you play in the backyard, I used to sit around and I'd watch like an anthill, and I'd watch all the ants, you know, going in and out of a hole and carrying food back and forth. That's sort of what it's like. There are thousands of people in lines with buckets, just digging by hand, filling the buckets, passing the buckets down, passing the buckets up. It's an enormous process that, you know, people think you just go in there with machines and you pick everything up and you move it, and that's not the case.
How do you organize something of that magnitude? Because it is a huge space and there's so much going on.
It's a huge space. I think the how you manage it is through good leadership. The mayor's leadership has been phenomenal. We have a site commander at the site, and it's usually a fireman, somebody from the fire department. And he's got to coordinate different things. He's got to coordinate some of the police assistance that is in the process of digging. We have about 200 emergency service officers that are there. The firemen that are digging and pulling out debris. He's got to work on coordinating the construction people. We have National Guard down there. The site coordinator, site incident commander is in charge of that.
I want to take you back to the first day and when you first found out. What was that like for you? What happened?
I was in my office, and one of my people came back, and you know, they were yelling that a plane had hit the World Trade Center, and my conference room sort of overlooks that area. And I walked out to my conference room. I ran out to my conference room. I looked out the window. And when they said a plane hit the World Trade Center, I kind of anticipated it was a small aircraft, you know, possibly a twin-engine aircraft, because they fly along the Hudson River down around the southern portion of the Battery all the time with the helicopters. That's what I thought hit the building. When I looked at the building, I realized that wasn't the case, that it was much bigger than a small plane.
And what did you do?
You know, I immediately I spoke to the mayor. I got in my car. I went down to the site. I was about 2 blocks away on the north side of the site on West Broadway, and it was a horrendous sight. It was heart-wrenching. It was painful because you feel almost like there's nothing you can do. The upper portion of the building was on fire. There were people jumping from the building. And all of a sudden, the second building was hit. And at that point, I wasn't sure. I thought someone was blowing up the building from the inside. And I thought someone was mistaken when they said that it was struck by a plane. And then I heard over the police radio that another plane had hit the building.
What goes through your mind at a time like that?
You're trying to think of what the next step should be. You know, what are you going to do next? My concern was the evacuation of the buildings, getting the people as far north, as far away from there as possible. I was also concerned with whether or not there were other aircraft. Now you had 2 large aircraft, you know, jetliners that had hit these buildings. Are there others? Is there anything coming in that we didn't know about? Where are we going to, who should we evacuate? What buildings should be evacuated? There's a number of things that go through your mind when something like that happens.
And then what happened?
I met with the mayor. The mayor got there he was there within 3 minutes after the second craft hit the building. And
at this point, you're underneath the building in harm's way.
We were pretty close. We were about 2 blocks away. We had to, in fact, when the second plane hit the building, me and some of my staff were basically we had to run and hide behind a garage and get out of the way of the debris. And one of my guys was struck by a piece of what I believe is the plane. We then met with the mayor. The mayor was there within several minutes, and the mayor and I went around to another part down to West Street on the West Side Highway to the other side of the building in an attempt to evaluate what was going to happen, what we had to do. Also to meet with some of the bosses from the fire department and the emergency service unit that were on that side of the commanders that were on that side of the building.
Is this something we could have anticipated or should have anticipated? Is there something we could have done to be prepared for something like this?
I think something like this you would never anticipate, because nobody in their right mind is going to drive a craft like that through one of those buildings, or you wouldn't think so anyway.
How has this changed what we should anticipate?
Well, it's we're going to look at things differently. I think we're going to. I think certain precautions have to be taken that I think the president and the people responsible are putting in place, and it's.
Is New York safe tonight? Is America safe tonight? Should we feel safe?
Well, I think we're as safe as we can possibly make it. Is it 100% without a doubt? Can you stop every event? No, absolutely not. You can't. But New York City is one of the safest cities in America. The United States is one of the safest countries in America. And the president and the people responsible are going to see to it that the people that did this pay for it, and that things like this, we're going to make sure that they don't happen again. What
measures will we take in the future on airlines and in general?
Well, I think they're in the process of looking at that now, and I think the people responsible for those things, the FAA, the FBI, and people that the president have assigned to look at this, I think they'll be putting out those protocols and policies. But I think it's quick to come, and they'll talk about it.
Is there anything you can tell us about the arrest at JFK?
Someone was taken into custody. There were a number of people that were detained in the last few days, but a lot of those people were released, let go. They were questioned concerning identities. There were mistaken identities. There were people that, just different things that came up. And this is a very intense investigation, so we're looking at a number of different things. And most of the people were released. There was one person taken into custody as a witness, and the FBI and the members of the Joint Terrorist Task Force are talking to him.
Now, do you anticipate in the future, as we look for possible suspects and possible terrorists, that the police department might be accused of profiling, as it has been in the past?
Well, you have to do what you have to do to maintain the security of this country. I think we'll fall within the guidelines of the law, but I think we have to look at everything. We have to look at everyone. We've got to make sure that the country's secure.
Are there additional hijackers, do you think, who are out there? Do you think that bin Laden, if bin Laden in fact has done this, has a whole network in place?
Well, you can't tell. I mean, you hear different things. He's very active, or at least he tries to be. If they're out there, I think we're going to find them, and they're going to be arrested, and they're going to pay for the crimes they commit or attempt to commit.
Why haven't we gone after him more aggressively in the past?
Well, I think we're doing everything we can possibly do. Perhaps there are other things that we can do. We're looking at that now. with every incident, every time you have an incident like this, your venues seem to change, your investigative tactics change. Also, I'm confident that there are governments that perhaps in the past have harbored him or helped him. I'm not sure they want to do that now. This isn't the time to do that. So we're going to do everything we can to look at him and others, anyone that commits a crime like this. We're going to take action and make sure they're brought to justice.
You recently returned from a trip to Israel.
Right.
What can you tell us about what you learned there, and what did you learn from them, and what can they learn from us?
Well, this is, although this is an enormous, it's probably the biggest tragedy that's ever happened in this country on U.S. soil. In the history of this nation, Israel goes through this constantly, not at this level, but these types of attacks. And I think the things, we talked about, I met with the Minister of Public Security, I met with the Police Commissioner of the Israeli National Police Force, and we talked about just these types of things. And I think the key behind the success of fighting terrorism is intelligence. And we have to open up those intelligence networks, not only between the United States and Israel, but the United States to other countries, in conjunction with other countries. And I think it'll make it better for the entire world.
How do you deal with talking to the families who've lost loved ones? I know that's hard for you.
It's very hard. It's, I have 23 cops that are missing. Great cops, hero cops. Some of them I know personally. It's extremely difficult to talk to their families, but in talking to their families, I was with them the last few days. Yesterday, I was with the family members, with the president, and it's they are more sometimes an inspiration to me than I am to them. They're supportive. They understand the jobs that these men and women have, and they've been fantastic. They're dealing with it. It's hard. They understand. I think one of the keys behind dealing with the families is being as truthful as possible. And the mayor and I, we try to tell the families, and the fire commissioner, Tom Van Essen, who's gone through an enormous, had an enormous tragedy here. He's lost over 300 guys are missing from the fire department. You have to tell the families up front, we're doing everything we can possibly do. We're going to do our best, but there's no guarantees. And it's hard to talk to the families. Has
this changed you?
I think it's changed everyone. I think it's changed. It absolutely has changed me in a number of different ways. You just think of your life before and after this, and what you think of the people around you, what you think of your family, what you think of this nation, of the country. I think it's really transformed the entire country. The support that we've gotten in the police department by the communities, the outpouring, the generosity of support from around the country has been unbelievable. I think it's really changed the entire nation.
All right. What can Americans do to help you?
I think they can continue doing what they've been doing and showing their support, letting people know that they're supporting the men and women in the police department and the fire department, coming forward when we need them. We don't need the volunteers right now, but we will need them in the future at some point in time. Don't forget this. Don't forget what's happened. Don't forget us. And just keep doing what they're doing.
And one last question. Do you believe that there might still be people alive down there?
I'm optimistic. There's no guarantees, but there are, there's 7 floors below ground. There could be voids, there could be vacuums, there could be pockets where there is water, there may be food, there may be air. It's possible someone's alive, and we're going to do everything in our power to get them out of there.